Hey. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Two Funny Astronauts. I'm one of your hosts, Garrett Reisman, and this is.
Mike Massimino, the other host.
And we just want to be very clear that we're not saying that we're actually funny people, right, Mike?
No, we're not. We are only funny for astronauts. So hold that to that standard.
It's a low bar,
Yeah,
okay? So let's just go with that.
hold
Speaking of
us to
which, so
that
we have
standard.
our guest today. This is part two with the Polaris Dawn Crew. Let's welcome them to the podcast. Yay! Hi
Hello.
guys, welcome back. So, we just this is the Two Funny Astronauts, and we were talking before this morning. Mass and I were talking on the phone, saying that every crew should have like at least one funny person on the crew.
Right.
Not more than one though, right, Mass? Or
No, I was taught this as one of my first, I don't know, one of my first meetings about something as a new astronaut. Michel Tonini, who is a French astronaut, and it was an experienced guy, and we were in this meeting together, and he said something about the way a crew is made up, and he said, Mike, every crew needs at least one funny guy. Well, not at least, it needs one funny guy. I don't know if he thought could be my contribution to the space program, but he was like, you should have one funny guy, and then he goes, but not more than one, Mike. As soon as you get two funny guys, then all of a sudden you have a gang, and nothing gets accomplished. One and only one. So I don't think it's a requirement necessarily,
I
but
think it should be though. So,
um,
the question we
You
have for you
guys
is,
get nothing accomplished on your podcast then?
oh, we get
no,
nothing.
that's why we don't get anything because the two of us. You've already gotten the idea. I'm surprised you guys showed up for part two.
I
I thought
know.
for sure it was going to be. Oh, sorry, we had very important things to do. We're going to
I
go
mean,
to quiet space.
you guys are doing this historic mission, and we spend half the time talking about Talladega Nights. So, obviously we get nothing. Very clear. But our question for you guys is, who is the funny one of the four of you? If you had to pick one as your funny crew member, who is it? I think we
So
got,
it's
if I tallied that correctly, I think we got two votes for Kid, and one for Jared. So let's go with Kid.
I,
Okay,
I,
so
I
Kid, you're
think
the
I
funny
think
one.
Anna and Sarah are
That's
trying to
the
get
only
things
thing I
done.
lead in this group.
That's the thing.
All right. So Kid, we established now. It was by a nose. It was a very close call, but we established that Kid is the funny one. So Kid, tell a joke.
Oh, geez. What? Oh, my gosh. I can't be put on the spot. What is the joke? I don't remember that.
So bad.
That's a horrible one.
All right. We're just messing with you. You don't really
Garrett,
have to do it.
well, wait a minute. I thought of something. Garrett, do you remember the tradition on the shuttle launch pad with the pilot? This is the way we did it anyway. Is that the pilot was responsible for telling jokes?
Oh man, no. Well,
Did you
our
have that on
pilot,
your flights?
my pilot
That's
was
a,
box on my first flight.
Oh, you don't want him to tell any jokes.
No, because we had to keep, the people listen on those loops, and he would be X-rated. We can't, he'd be telling all these. No, we didn't do
This was the pilot had to have a few ready to go.
that. All right.
That was
So
part of the responsibilities.
good
All right,
news is
Kid.
you still have a couple weeks, Kid, to get ready and prepare.
Thank
But
I appreciate the prep time. We try and
They
keep
don't
things
have to be good jokes. They just have to be something.
yeah, something to keep it going. All right, that's
That's the
cool.
way we did
Yeah.
it.
Well, we
All
do
right, what
want
do
to
we got,
get
Garrett?
we want
Oh,
to talk about the suit. We want to talk about training. But before we do, I do also want to say that you know, I had the good fortune of meeting Sarah and Anna back at SpaceX before. In fact, and Sarah, when I first met Sarah, she wasn't even Sarah Gillis, right?
It's true.
You were, what were you?
Sarah Levine.
Sarah Levine, right? That's
Yeah.
it. So do you remember the all hands meeting we had when you first came in? Do you remember this?
Yeah, I was trying to forget it. Yeah, do remember that.
Oh, come on. So no, that's not. So the thing was back then, we had just started what was called crew operations. It later became space operations, which it still is today at SpaceX, which is the ops group, combining the ground operators and the crew as well. But back then it was just crew. And back in those days, we had a very strange demographic in our group, right? We were majority female and majority Jewish, right? Which is both highly unusual for groups in aerospace in general, or especially at SpaceX. But we had like Jason Tenenbaum, right? We had Rachel Foreman. We had even Molly McCormick, which might sound like a deal breaker there,
Mm.
except for the fact that her mother was Jewish. Okay, and she's actually still Molly now is the head of human integration at VAST now, so she's still working hard. But anyway, we had this group that was majority female, majority Jewish, and I got up to talk about our group at this all hands, and I pointed out that, hey, this is an aberration. Right? Statistically, we're going to revert to the mean, and this won't last. This demographic over time, as we grow, it's going to change. But I would like to invite the newest member of our group. I would like to introduce her. Here is Sarah Levine. So he really helped us with our distinguished demographic there, and it just got worse. But eventually it changed. So thank you for that, by the way. I never thanked you properly.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Sarah didn't want to relive that episode.
Was that embarrassing? Did I embarrass you in front of everybody, or?
I think that was week 1 on my job at SpaceX. So,
Yep.
it was meeting a brand new team.
That's a good way to get recognized, don't you think?
It was
I
funny.
don't know. Anyway, it was fun. Yeah, it's going to change, but I would like to introduce our newest member, Sarah Levine.
So
Yeah.
so Garrett was Garrett was he like kind of, can we say like he was kind of your boss when you were there? For both of you? Was he Garrett, turn off your speaker, please. Was Garrett any good at being a boss? Was he a good boss, or was he like, oh man, like what was he like? Was he just making you work all the time, or what was he like? Tell us the truth too. He's not listening.
It was a lot of fun. We had a good time when there weren't very many people thinking about human spaceflight across SpaceX. So it was like this really small team of people that were working on the interior of a spacecraft, trying to bring it all together. So we had a lot of fun. I think there was like 9 people originally. It was super tiny. And then I grew over time and we became space ops. And yeah, no, we had a good time.
That's not how you described him last night.
He is the funny one.
There's
He's
the funny guy
one.
right there. He's got it. He doesn't need to prepare any jokes for the launch pad. It's just going to flow naturally.
Oh,
Right.
man.
See? Michelle Tonini was right.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, Jared, I'm a big fan of how you've approached this whole thing, going way back to Inspiration 4, your first involvement with SpaceX, and you intentionally are pushing SpaceX, and I don't think SpaceX would. It's not that I want. I know that SpaceX would not be making EVA suits right now if it weren't for you saying, "Hey, we need to expand the envelope. We need to go further." And you don't have to do that, right? That's your choice, and I commend you for it. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and even going back to Inspiration 4 and how you went about that, and how you chose the altitudes you're flying at and everything. I just think it's great. And the other thing I want to give you props for is when we in the early days when we started talking about doing non-NASA missions at SpaceX. I was a proponent of doing something to ensure the team building part of the training, and that didn't get a lot of traction. I'll be honest with you, in the early days of SpaceX, there wasn't this. Why do we need to do that? That's a waste of time, and I think that's something you understood intuitively, and with Inspiration 4, when you climb Mount Rainier and when you do the aviation stuff, and now with this mission with Polaris Dawn, you guys. When I saw Inspiration 4 climb into the Dragon, you were all climbing in as a crew and not as individual, like a pickup game or something. You guys were a well-bonded crew, and I think that was all stuff that really came from you, or am I giving you too much credit?
You give me way too much credit.
Way too much.
Yeah. No, I'd say, look, it's awesome that SpaceX is really so supportive of Polaris and contributing to it. It's not every idea is a good idea. It all has to kind of be in the direction of making life multiplanetary and getting to Mars. Spacesuits is a big part of getting people moving around on the surface of another planet at some point. So it all has to be in the direction of Mars. But if it kind of checks those boxes and helps get ahead, then they jump on top of it. So yeah, there's no individuals in any of this. There's 10,000 plus really awesome people at SpaceX. Polaris has a really big team that's all contributing to it. And that's how the objectives to the Polaris mission get formed. And then on Inspiration 4, SpaceX had all the hard part down, of putting people into orbit and bringing them home safely. And we had a reasonably decent astronaut trainer along the way. So I just trying to supplement in some ways. And yeah, I think the team building stuff was super important. As you guys know, we were only up there on I-4 for 3 days, and you got a 50% likelihood of people getting space adaptation syndrome. 50% got it. And yet, you can kind of progress through that. Also, our toilet was broken. I think some people were familiar with that as well. So plenty of reasons to not be, on your best form, and yet, like, everybody kind of remained, happy, healthy, and productive, and didn't want to come home on day 3. So I attribute a decent amount of that to some of the stressful environments we were able to create on Earth before the mission, and it all worked out well.
That's awesome. I think that was very. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. I do think you deserve. I think a lot of that idea that we're going to bond as a team, and when we ingress the vehicle, we're ingressing as a team where we don't want to let each other down. Because when we hired Anna's husband at SpaceX as our first flight doc, who by the way, I should mention this. Mass, I told you this, right? We tried to get Anil to do a cameo, to do a surprise appearance on this.
Yeah, I wonder why he turned you and I down.
He didn't.
Oh,
he was all for it. I talked to him on the phone yesterday. He was going to totally do it, and NASA wouldn't let him.
Aww.
I know, right? Come on.
Right.
I gave him
I don't know why they wouldn't want him to be on our show.
I gave him like 12 hours heads up. Come on. But that was very disappointing. But anyway, when we were going to hire, we ultimately hired him, but we interviewed some other people, and one of those other people said that actually, medically speaking, and Anna, you could maybe address this. Medically speaking, if you were like healthy enough to go on a roller coaster, that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but you're pretty much healthy enough to fly in space, as far as just human health, not necessarily performance, but health, and that the biggest concern that they had as they were looking towards doing private missions was actually anxiety. They said they did some tests with the centrifuge, and they found that people were all excited about it. And then when they were going to climb into the gondola of the centrifuge, they freaked out and like ran away. One guy apparently hid in a broom closet. They had to go drag him out. And but
the broom closet.
But I think the key to
overcoming a broom closet at the centrifuge.
They have a
broom closet on it.
Somebody's got
to. You guys hear about me like that?
So yeah, they do. So anyway, the point is that the importance of all this that you instinctively knew to do, Jared, was that if you are just grab a bunch of random people, and I think that is which is what they're doing with those centrifuge tests. They didn't know anybody. They were going in there as individuals, and a lot of them did freak out. But if you go in there as a crew and you're as a team, it's very different, right? And that's something I think as we go forward with more and more people flying in space is something that we really need to think about. I don't know.
Absolutely.
That's not really a question.
No. How about this? Go ahead, kid.
That was after they found me in the broom closet.
Yeah, he's gonna say, all right, I wasn't going to say anything, kid. We gave you the opening right there, man. That was good.
You hooked me up, and
man. You are the funny guy. So what do you got? What have you guys done? Because that's really important. We used to do these Knowles courses, and of course we used to fly a lot together. And so what have you guys done together as a crew for that teamwork, bonding, getting to know each other stuff?
We've done so many things, and I think that's ultimately what put the priority on SpaceX is that if they didn't launch us, we were going to keep doing some of these things, increasing injuries and such. So it really was ultimately what got things in gear to launch us at the end of the month. But you could probably see some of the pictures. We had an extensive career skydiving for a while, which went mostly well.
All of you went skydiving?
Yeah, actually at the Air Force Academy, some of the best training I think we've ever had during their Air Force jump wing program. It was super cool. We've done a lot of things. Kid, tell us he's big on the supplemental training.
Some jump more than others. Yeah, we did a lot of especially in the beginning. We ended up climbing Cotopaxi volcano down in South America. We've done a lot of fighter jet training. Allows us to get in those situations where we experience higher levels of risk, getting comfortable in uncomfortable scenarios. Learning a lot about ourselves, learning a lot about the team. Yeah, so I don't know what else. Scuba, skydiving, centrifuge.
10-meter, there we go.
10-meter. That was
jumping off the. Yeah,
that looks scary.
That is scary. All right, so when you said the skydiving, Garrett, do you remember Jessica's birthday a few years ago?
Yes.
Called me on her birth. So my wife, she had a significant birthday a couple of years ago, and she said she wanted to jump out of an airplane on her birthday, right? And she said, wouldn't it be great if we would do that to get that together? And I said, that would be great, but that's not happening. I will I'll volunteer to even fly that thing, but I am not jumping out of it. And I'll stay on the ground. I'm not jumping out of the airplane as long as it's working. So she's like, really, you should be. And I go, I'm not doing. So Garrett calls. Do you remember this, Garrett?
Yeah, I do.
You called me just to say hi. And I'm on the, she goes, I go, what are you doing? I go, I'm at an airport here on Long Island. Jessica's gonna jump out of an airplane for her birthday. And Garrett says, what, is she crazy? See what I mean? So you have my admiration doing that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You went and did that.
They wouldn't let us do that. Remember, somebody broke the
ankle. We get hurt. Well, that's the way. I mean, getting ejection. A kid would know about this more than anybody, I think, right? But ejection seat training in the military, did it include a jump when you did your ejection seat training as right? No.
Oh, absolutely not. I'd rather stay in the comfort of a cockpit than jump out of it. Sure.
Right. But when you did parasailing, probably, right? For that.
Yeah, you did.
That's what they did to us. Yeah. So thank God we didn't have to jump. Oh, we didn't have to jump off that 10-meter platform.
Oof.
Oh God.
Yeah. How many of you did a cannonball off that thing? No cannonball.
One and done.
All right.
Consequence stuff is cool, and I mean, it does create a different environment than a simulator that you can just hit the reset button on. We have fighter jets we do a lot of training in, but we can't do it at the same pace, as NASA a couple times a week or something. So we pitched very hard with the support of the Air Force Academy of doing the skydiving program where your first jump is solo. So they do like this really intense, it's normally like a 2-week ground training. They condensed it to like 2 days for us. And it was really awesome training actually by the cadets, the Wings of Blue. But we had to make this whole case to SpaceX of why we thought skydiving was a good idea. And we knew we had, 2 years before launch, so we might as well make the most of it. And then it turned out that this is like the standard for the cosmonauts, that they're actually don't fly very often in like tactical aircraft. In fact, do a lot of skydiving. It would have probably helped our case had we known that at the time of the initial pitch. But anyway, super cool.
That's interesting.
That's true. But it's important to do some of that stuff because we find that's why we fly around in those T-38s, right? Is that you can find somebody could get in a simulator and be fantastic, and in the simulator it could be a really bad day, everything's breaking and it's really tragic. But you know that no matter what happens, and whether you do well or not, you're going to go home, watch the ball game, have dinner, and go to sleep, right? No matter what. And it's different when you're in a real world environment where there are real consequences. And that's why we do that, because it's important to know how people react in that environment, right? That's again.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I kind of like staying inside of the airplane. Like, I don't really care what was going on inside the airplane. That was okay, but the idea of leaving it, I didn't think that was a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool though.
The parasailing was fun.
We did we did all that stuff, and of course a lot of other stuff that was kind of crazy and cool. But it's interesting. It's interesting that's what the model you guys use for that. That's kind of cool.
All right, let's get back to Polaris Dawn now.
All right, what are we talking about now?
Focus,
space
Matt.
suits. We're gonna go in a space. You started talking about all these things. What are you doing, Garrett? Go lead us. Go ahead.
So the spacesuit. Let's talk about the suit, because tell us a little bit more detail about what its features, capabilities. How is it different from the one that Mass and I wore, the EMU, and other than the operating pressure? Tell us more.
Sure. So the spacesuit is obviously a design evolution from the intravehicular suit that SpaceX has flown now for many crews. And I would say that's where they started. And then over the course of the last 2 years, they've redesigned pretty much every single aspect of the suit. This now needs to support crew out inside in the vacuum of space. So there's been really comprehensive design overhauls to introduce joint mobility. How do you ensure you can actually move your arms and your hands and your wrists in the way you need to when you're at 5 PSID pressure? There's new thermal layers. There's new kind of whole interior construction of how the garment comes together. You can see here there's a new visor that's going to provide sun protection. Inside that actually are some of the really cool components where you have both a first-person camera as well as a heads-up display that's kind of feeding out our suit pressure, temperature, information about how our suit is performing. But yeah, it's been a really incredible design evolution with the SpaceX team over the last couple of years. We would come in, we'd go home on a Friday and come back on Monday, and they'd have added an entire new component. There's now a HUD or a brand new joint we need to get to try. So it's been a really cool evolution over the last 2 years to both build the suit and the operation that supports the suit with new hardware in Dragon, so we can actually move around and successfully open the hatch and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would just say that being part of that whole development process, as Sarah talked about, is the coolest part. I mean, again, every week you have a new arm or a new wrist, and it's this Frankenstein suit. But what you get to learn along the way. So, for example, like some of us got to go out to White Sands Missile Range, where the NASA has like a hypervelocity lab where they shoot millimeter-sized projectiles, at different objects, like close to orbital velocity speeds, like 7 kilometers plus a second. And you learn really cool things like you don't want to get hit by MMOD. That millimeter of aluminum is going to go through a foot of aluminum at that velocity. So it's just been a lot of good learning. And I say all that because, the spacesuit looks really cool. Obviously, it's not as bulky, and it's not designed to do the same things as like the EMU suit is. But I wouldn't want anyone to think, they took an IVA suit and just plugged a long umbilical and tether into it. I mean, this was 2 years of a lot of hard work to get to the point that the suit can survive in huge temperature swings outside. It can minimize damage from things like MMOD. It gives you awesome insights through the HUD, the camera, sun protection, and has a lot of mobility and dexterity. So it's all in like the direction of goodness of being able to eventually, do some real operations outside a vehicle or perhaps on the moon or Mars someday.
What are you wearing inside of this thing?
Shark skin. Can we pull up a picture of it?
No.
We have some ESD, safety suits that are, it's like a modification of the normal comfort garments, but it looks like shark skin. And it looks really, really slick until you sweat.
Oh,
what about your potty procedure? Ooh, what do you
Oh,
got
boy.
for that?
We're going to go to Live to Kid on.
We spent a good 6.5 hours in the suit yesterday, and I can tell you firsthand that one diaper is not enough. I think I got French foot yesterday. I fully tested out the bladder of the system, and it works.
Airtight.
It's airtight.
Which bladder did you test out?
Both the suit and my own.
Wow. So I'm assuming that's your first thing to put on, and then you've got a thermal comfort garment. You said this shark skin or whatever you call it. That's that and then the suit after that.
And the skin's got booties, and then we have gloves for to help us get into the suit. It's all the suit itself. EVA suit is one piece. It's got a spiral zipper You kind of enter through the top half at first with your arms in your head. Again, the helmet is part of integrated into the system. And then you slide the pants on, and you got more or less, you got zippers for the boots as well as zipper for the waist and zippers for the wrist.
Zippers.
You can expose your hands to certain things. Yeah. You got the bladder zipper and then the restraint zipper on top of that.
Interesting. Did you have? Was there zippers on the Russian?
No, the Russian one, the Sokol anyway, has this big giant bladder, and then you bunch it all up, and then you tie rubber bands around it. And I'm not making this up. This is true. That's their body seal closures is like they're like big beefy rubber bands. They're good Russian rubber bands. They're like serious. But that's how they do it. Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Was that their launch and entry suit though, Garrett? Wasn't the Orlan?
That's their IVA suit. The
Sokol. So for EVA Orlan, did it have zippers or
no? The Orlan is a back entry where there's a hinge and the whole back opens up and then you step in and then you have a lever and you pull it and it seals against O-rings. Yeah.
So zippers are kind of a new. Well, I don't know if it's a new thing. Maybe they had many back in the early days.
We had them on the Aces, right?
Yeah, but I'm sorry that was launch and entry, not for the spacewalking suit.
True.
I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting.
Using zippers. You don't want to get it.
Yeah. Well, say again. Sorry, Jared. I didn't. Maybe the whole world heard. But what'd you say?
Oh, I said these are really big meaty zippers. You don't want to get them caught.
Yeah. But that's probably better. I mean, we had to be so careful with all the components and making sure everything was latched correctly so you didn't get a leak, right? So
I just getting was it something about Mary? What was the one with Ben Stiller? I'm getting a bad flashback there.
I like the water survival suits.
Yeah.
Cool.
And but they have a HUD. The HUD is really awesome. You know, I had a student team, and Swanee also had his team. We went down to JSC and we did the student competition to do a heads-up display for a spacesuit, but we were using HoloLenses, right? And just as technology development, just proof of concept kind of stuff. But actually integrating it into the suit, NASA was like, oh yeah, that's like, generations from now. So, but I love the fact that at SpaceX, they just they did it in a week, right? Is that true? Crazy.
Like a weekend. I mean, the first version was like a weekend deal. I mean, they made it a lot nicer looking, but I mean, they had a functional HUD in a weekend, and now it's like really nice polished up flight hardware.
How do you interact with it if you want to? I guess I'm assuming there's like things you can change or declutter, or how do you control that thing? The HUD.
Think in Russian.
You what?
You think in Russian?
Firefox reference. Come on.
Firefox. Yes. That's so it's
I think housekeeping wants to get in on the party. Let me
Housekeeping's knocking.
Oh. I thought they don't do that anymore in a post-pandemic.
Every other day.
Put the little sign out.
Status here at the Marriott.
I'm just curious with the HUD. Is it like voice activated at all, or do you have switches on the spacesuit, or how do you interact with the suit in general? Is there anything to control on it?
Got 4 lines of data: time or elapsed time, pressure of the suit itself, temperature, as well as relative humidity.
And that stays there the whole time. Your HUD does.
And alerts.
Yeah, it cycles constantly, so you don't interact with the HUD. It's just cycling information it thinks you need at various points.
Okay.
And it's got a laser reticle for targeting.
Targeting reticle. Can you turn it off, or you just have to wait for it to go away and go through its cycle?
You wouldn't want it off until the end of the operate. I mean, it's really insightful. I mean, we definitely spent a lot of time staring at it during the chamber run yesterday. So it's not like a distraction. So it doesn't interfere. You wouldn't need to declutter it. It's there when you can train your eyes to it when you want an update, and then you can look ahead and it's not bothersome. So it's positioned really well. It's definitely something you would not want to turn off.
Okay,
cool.
And that's your only telemetry that you have access to, other than audio alarms, or is there anything else? There's no suit pressure gauge or anything like that?
It has suit pressure.
On the HUD. Okay, gotcha. What about the so the mobility? You talked about the shoulder mobility joint, the wrist mobility joint, but these were all like in the EMU. These were all big, bulky bearings, metal bearings. And on this suit, these are soft joints, right? Because you have to use it during launch and entry as well, right? So how different is that?
That's one of, I think, the coolest technology breakthroughs that the SpaceX team was working with to help enable this. Um, they basically created a flexible bearing that when the suit is unpressurized, it allows it to kind of comfortably sit against you. When you have the restraints over your shoulder, it kind of feels just like soft goods. And then when the suit pressurizes, it actually becomes a pretty functional bearing. And you're able to rotate the joints in the shoulders. We have kind of the windshield wiper upper arm rotator and then the wrist rotators as well. So it's a really slick design that they've come up with to enable that.
And it's a very comfortable suit for sure, even pressurized or unpressurized. Long durations is not an issue. And even when we're pressurized, we have a manual relief valve on one leg, and then you got the umbilical connection on the other, and you got to manipulate the valves and levers on both of those. And it's pretty easy to do with mobility as well as dexterity of the fingers.
Where are those valves? You mean when you said so? Where are these things located that you're reaching to interact with?
They're right on top of the thigh. You got one manual valve that will depressurize, utilize to depressurize, and then we have the umbilical connection on the other leg. And on top of the connection, there's a secondary valve for flow that will turn on and off based on where we are in the phase of flight.
Because you're going to have to probably, I'm assuming there's things when you're going to have to work the hatch, you're going to have to do other things. The gloves, was always an issue for us in the EMU because you're working against pressure. Did you try a bunch of different tasks when you were pressurized inside of this thing to see how your hands responded to being able to do work?
Yeah, we've had like over 100 pressurized runs in the suits throughout the development period. The gloves just keep getting better. What was really cool was some point, probably, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, they stopped rolling in design changes in our kind of Frankenstein training suits. And from our perspective, it's like, well, this is as good as it's going to get. But they were rolling them into the flight suit. So when we actually tried our flight hardware and pressed that up for the first time, it was almost like a generational leap over what we were training in. So just dexterity improved that much more, the mobility in the shoulders, wrists, elbows. But yeah, we've been interacting with tons of things, everything from our displays themselves to everything from our displays to the hatch, to the manual operations of it, the various mobility aids built in the vehicle. So it's tons of runs with it.
Cool. Must have been nice to get into those flight suits and get that new suit smell, at least until Kid pissed all over it, right?
What do you have for nutrition inside of there? You have a drink bag, or what do you guys think about what you would need in there, or what do you have in there? Nothing.
I mean, ETA is going to be 2 hours. So I think the idea is we're probably going to intentionally not want to be drinking, especially after what happened to Kid. So I think the idea is we'll be well hydrated and full prior to that point in time. But we know SpaceX is considering this. I mean, they have a whole roadmap, for future block updates. So given consideration to what would be required for an 8-hour EVA, it's not lost on them. It's just not needed for our test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I'm with you, Kid. We when we were going up there from my first EVA, we had this the previous shuttle flight. They had this horrible thing happen where one of the crew members wasn't hydrated enough, and they actually were not able to urinate, and so they had to cancel an EVA because the guy couldn't pee, which is really embarrassing, So we were all drinking like crazy because we didn't want that to happen to us, and so I used that diaper like 4 times before I even got out the airlock. Because I was so super hydrated. But But it worked fine. As long as
Any diaper recommendations? Any brands that would work better than?
we didn't have a choice, unfortunately. We had to, but I tell you this, I tried this once on the NBL. I shouldn't say this. This is disgusting.
Too late. You have to say it. We're imagining worse. Gotta say it.
Vince, you're already there.
You don't want to use it for number 2. Okay. If you're only 2 hours, you can hold it. All right. Or just make sure.
Wait a minute. You didn't do that, did you?
In the NBL. I wanted to push the envelope. I wanted to try it out. I wanted to find out what would happen. I waited until we were back, like on the donning stand coming out.
So you did it in a pool? Very long. You did that in a pool run?
I did. Yeah, I did.
You gotta be kidding me.
Just once.
You gotta put that on your resume. That's bravery. That's not even. I mean,
legendary status right there.
Even Jerry Ross never did that, I'm sure.
How do you know?
No one ever did. Come on, God, how do I know? I can't imagine. I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I can't even fathom that you're thinking about.
Look, I didn't want it the first time if it was an emergency. I didn't want it the first time to be in space, right? You want to find
I don't know, man.
Out.
There's a lot of emergencies I wouldn't want to happen ever in space or training, and that's one of them.
We're in that suit for like over 9 hours. What would happen? You want to know, right?
Garrett, the viewers are wondering whether that movement changed your center of mass.
It's a good question. It did, because I tried to get further up in my helmet to get away from the smell. So that's, I think, what changed the center of mass more than anything.
And then you're at the pool, so that means there's a group of people getting you out of that thing.
Yeah.
Did anyone notice?
Yeah, they noticed.
I mean, how come I haven't heard about this before? This
I don't know. News. I think
I cannot believe I didn't hear about this before.
Yeah. Maybe because
unbelievable. Because that leads to you would have gotten probably another nickname out of that, Garrett. But people love you so much it didn't matter. You're the only guy that could get away with that. If I did that, forget about it. I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Well, I did have a vegetarian meal the night before, so I think that helps.
How about some viewer questions?
Okay.
Can I rescue this conversation with some viewer questions?
Let's take some viewer questions.
Can I guess one last one though, and before we're freaking out one? Did you guys do any like training in I know it sounds like you did a lot of suit tests in vacuum and all other places maybe. Did you do any underwater stuff, or did that with the suit at all, or a mock-up of it?
Other than kids recently submerged event? We did a lot of scuba initially together. SpaceX, decided rather than build a pool and submerge their only simulator and suits into it, they basically developed an offload system, I think similar to your Argos at NASA, and basically allowed us to interact in and out of the vehicle pressurized. Microgravity conditions, plus do a lot of the contingency work, hatch ops. We did a crew rescue event recently. I wouldn't say like anywhere near the extent of like what NASA prepares for with NBL, but we spent time underwater and above the floor.
And so when you're in the Argos, kind of when you're suspended, you were suspended horizontally or vertically? Which way?
Both.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we actually built like a whole sideways simulator, so we can do all of the hatch ops as needed with the correct gravity vector, not really impacting our movements. So it's been pretty fun to now have kind of 2 simulators we can go between for different orientations.
Oh, that's cool. All right, Matt, you got anything else? You want to go to the viewer questions?
I got so many questions, but we better stop. Let's go to the viewers. I got a lot of questions for you too, Garrett, and I'm sure you have some for me after this. But
we'll talk later.
Let's go to the viewer question.
So a couple different questions have been coming in. A lot of interest in the suits specifically. I know we've done a ton of talking about the suits. Of course, this isn't just about the suits. Y'all have a lot of stuff going on. But have there been any details or any visuals of the HUD's release? Like, we've all been looking for what it looks like. And Jared, you were sort of saying you could not avert your eyes, but look over to one side. Is it sort of down the side where there's 4 lines of data? Is it in the middle, at the top, at the bottom? How do you describe that, where the HUD is? Can you tell us?
You actually might have seen it in at least one of the pictures that went by earlier. There's both a projector and then a kind of a lower surface in the lower right of your vision. But it's kind of feeding you information at the lower part of lower left vision.
So that's probably this photo here, I bet you. Is that the right photo there that has a projector and like a little screen sort of thing?
Yep. Down by his chin.
Down by the chin. So down that way, that's the oh, and then there's stuff up there as well. Okay. So is that a camera on the side?
It's a better frame for your eye when you're pressurized and not walking.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Is the suit camera installed on this version here up near your temple, or is that something else?
Yeah, that's the second circle you drew there. That's the suit camera.
All right, good deal. A lot of people were asking like what that looks like, or is it lines of text? Is it flashy? Does it move a lot? Does it distract you? And I think you did say that it didn't distract you while you were working. So another question from viewers, and this is something I have as well. There's suit personalization, right? Where you make the suit fit your body better, right? But has there been any personalization of your suits that's more aesthetic? Like, you've got your call sign on it somewhere, or art that you've added to your suit? Because we see it in sci-fi, right? All the belters have their decorated helmets, and we've really made it to space when astronauts are up there decorating their spacesuits. Have you done anything aesthetic to personalize your spacesuit? Or do you have plans to?
Or
are you allowed to be?
Rejected requests.
These guys are not like mining asteroids. You know that, right?
Yet, Garrett, they're not mining asteroids yet. Suit could be very useful for the future.
Garrett did some decoration, though, didn't you, Garrett? On your, we used to write on our cuff checklists.
Mm-hmm.
We could write on our cuff checklist, different things and like notes and stuff. You want to share what you did, or no? It's kind of cool.
Not after last night, but
that's just between you and me, though. That's all right.
Yeah,
baseball. It's a baseball reference.
I put a New York Yankees logo on the with a Sharpie, so I was hoping to get like free sausage sandwiches when I went to the games, but didn't really work out.
I've got another spacewalk related question here. Are there any tools that you'll be using to test the dexterity of the suit gloves while you're on in the depressurized state?
No. We did have some requests for that. That didn't work. Totally, yes. But no, so we are going to be interacting with various mobility aids. That's part of the suit test matrix. We have 3 different phases of tests. We are, as part of those tests, simulating like what single hand or hands-free operations would look like with disturbances as if we were interacting with something. But no like big honking tools or anything.
Gotcha.
Actually, I got it. When you come out the hatch, are your feet restrained in any way, or do you have to always hold on with at least one hand?
So when we come out, we'll be unrestrained. There's this new structure around the top of the spacecraft that's a mobility aid to support us. But once we're out there, there's actually kind of a lowest bar within that you're able to hook your toes under and use. So we'll be doing hands-free demonstration, how to engage the feet, how to disengage the feet, and then figure out kind of what it would be like to simulate tool usage and how well you can maintain stability in the suit in that configuration.
Cool.
Nice. We'll turn that's the viewer questions I've got. We'll turn the outro to the show here over to y'all, Mike and Garrett.
Oh, okay. Wow, we're out of time.
That's
That went
it?
fast.
It did go very
Wow.
fast, yeah.
Man, must have been all that talk about bodily functions in the suit. Yeah.
I find that remarkable. I don't know. I think it went fast for Jared and I. I'm not sure about the crew. Hope because this was really fun. I really appreciate you guys spending some time with us. It's great to see all of you. And
We'll have a couple beers with you guys.
Oh, that'd be great.
oh yeah, we love that. Yeah,
Yeah, we
So-
love that.
yeah.
That'd be
Maybe we
great.
could do.
So
Maybe we
if-
could do. I was going to say maybe we could do a follow up afterwards if you're game. I'm sure Garrett and I would love to do that. See what it's like if you guys are. Maybe we want to cut that part of it out in case you change your mind. But it was really cool to hear what you're going to do. And really excited about all the stuff you can learn, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about it.
Yeah, hopefully
Garrett, go right ahead.
I'm just looking forward to watching the whole mission live, and hopefully just a couple of weeks from now, and it's going to be really exciting to see you guys do this.
Yeah.
And let's definitely when you get back, let's definitely all get together for a beer. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's a special time. Those last few weeks or however long it is before you go. The way you spend your time is really important, and we really sure appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yep. Thank you very much for doing it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
See you guys for a beer soon.
Yeah,
All right.
man. Count us in.
You got it. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this special episode of Two Funny Astronauts, and we'll see you next time.